Hello, my beautiful daredevils. It's your girl Ari, and we are finally back for season 2, episode 5 of the Run It Back podcast. If you don't know, we literally only did like 4 episodes last year in 2024, which is horrendous. I am so sorry. Obviously, I didn't put a big focus on it last year, but that's all going to change. We're going to get back to our weekly schedule in 2025. So here every week talking to you about music industry news, as my schedule provides it possible. As always, we are here at Inner Space Orlando, and I'm super excited to just get straight into it. So starting this episode out, we're going to talk a little bit, or a lot of bit, about Spotify. So the first story that I'm going to talk to you guys about today, The Ghost in the Machine, and this is an expose / excerpt from this book, Ghost Music, that was coming out in this month of this year, this edition of it. And basically what this book is talking about is the practice that Spotify has been going through of working with and algorithmically rewarding these publishing and sync companies that are hiring these smaller independent upcoming musicians to make music for them and then putting it on the platform. So I'm going to explain this a little bit further and why there's kind of an issue with it. So what's happening is that, like I said, these sync and licensing companies are contacting these smaller independent upcoming musicians with these briefs, where these musicians could make, a lump sum of money for a song, for this company to buy out their song. Now, the brief is going to kind of ask them for a genre, is going to ask them for the mood, the idea of what they want the outcome of the song to be like. And then the artist is going to execute that. The company is going to pay them the money, and the artist is going to sign away the copyrights. It's probably done in like a work for hire sense, but it's going to be an all-out buyout. So that company is then going to take that music and distribute it through an artist profile on Spotify, where they're going to collect all of the revenue for it. And Spotify is then taking these works and putting them on editorial playlists and pushing them to listeners to the point where these songs are garnering millions and millions and millions of streams and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in royalty payments to these companies. So this is a problem for a multitude of reasons. The biggest problem is that Spotify is rewarding these companies and actively taking money away from real artists. This is interesting because usually when we're talking about real artists versus ghost artists, we're really thinking about like AI. But that's not the case here. These are real musicians who are working on these works, but they're not real artists that they're being distributed out of. They're these, conglomerate of all of these musicians who are putting out this specific sound through this specific vessel, right? The other issue is that these musicians don't really have a good understanding of the business relationship that they're getting into, and they don't understand that they're being paid very, very low amounts of money in considering what is being generated from the works that they're handing over to these folks. So this is pretty crazy. It's just honestly, unfortunately, tag it onto the long list of things that Spotify has done to fuck you over as a creative, okay? So still talking about Spotify, we're moving over into Grammy season coming up. And Spotify will be hosting the I think that, it's a great way for these songwriters to lead by example of setting boundaries and taking action that is disturbing these companies, right? Because this is a very public, this is a public embarrassment for Spotify. You know what I'm saying? And it gets people talking about it. And it gets your average consumer talking about it who may not necessarily kind of understand what's going on in that space. This is a story that would get somebody to understand it, to get somebody to get insight into why these artists, you know what I'm saying, are making this decision, right? So the next thing that we're going to talk about is further, we're talking about kind of rights and labor and employees and things and of that nature. So 4,300 artists and record labels signed a petition for the DistroKid Union. Now, this union was created in April 2024 after 62% of DistroKid employees voted in favor of unionization, which we love. That's a great thing, collective bargaining. But the reason that these, 4,300 artists signed this petition is because after DistroKid unionized, they laid off 47% of its unionized workers in October, including 5 out of 7 of the bargaining committee members, so essentially the leadership. So after DistroKid's workforce said, you know what, we want collective bargaining, we want to talk with our employer and tell them that they need to change some things. We have some demands that we want met. DistroKid said, oh no, fuck that. We're just going to fire half of you guys. And give you the message that this is not what we want you to do. This is retaliation. I'm pretty sure it's illegal, but I don't know the specifics on that, you know what I'm saying? But what it is, hands down, is just egregious and disgusting and gross. You know what I'm saying? It's a big deal. The industry over the past couple of years, especially with COVID, has gone over a lot of layoffs. With COVID, with the rise of AI, with rising costs, the industry has gone through a lot of things, and this is going to continue the trend of people leaving the industry, of people pivoting and finding different careers within music as well. So it's a big story, which of course is why I put it in here. I also, as my little 2 cents tidbit for this, want to just say, if DistroKid, which a figure that they give in this article, distributes 30 to 40% of new music on Spotify, which is all coming from independent musicians. If they don't give a fuck about their workers, the people who actually run the business, who they pay salaries to, they don't give a fuck about you. They don't care about you either. They care about you less. You know what I'm saying? So I urge you, if you are a musician who is watching this, to get off of DistroKid and find a new aggregator. If you're watching this in real time, Symphonic currently has a 50% off discount code, Kickass 2025, to get their yearly starter pack. Go do that. They have a very, very easy system when it comes to transferring all of your music from your current aggregator over to them. Lander's another one that has a really good system for that. Let's get away from DistroKid. Stop giving them our money, especially when this is what they're doing to their employees. On top of just not being the best service. It's just this big, they have this big monopoly on the industry because they're one of the first, and they're, easy, they're very accessible, and everybody knows about them, so that's why they're continued to kind of keep this monopoly on the industry, and it's time to take that away from them. It is time to take that away from them, okay? So let's get it together, folks. Moving forward, this story is about AI, and we talk about AI almost every episode on this podcast, but I put this in here because I want us to talk a little bit about what this means for the landscape of AI and the music industry. So going back, the story starts when Universal Music Group sues the AI company Anthropic for distributing song lyrics. So basically, Anthropic has this AI model called Claude 2 that was distributing almost identical lyrics to pre-existing works. So the publishers and the labels, the rights owners of these works reached out to this company. Well, they didn't reach out. Well, maybe they did in the beginning, but they sued them and they said, hey, you're infringing upon our work. Your AI is infringing upon our work and it can't be doing that. You owe us some money. This isn't cool. Currently, where we're at now is that they have found a resolution to this whole thing. They have a settlement. And basically, what is going to happen, what they say, well, I'll just read it word for word. Requiring Anthropic to apply existing guardrails in the training of future AI models to establish a procedure for music publishers to intervene when copyright infringement is suspected. So they have to make sure that all of the existing guardrails that they have on the AI go into any other models that they develop. And they need to develop a system for publishers to rectify infringement whenever it comes up. They need to have an investigation, auditing process, and way for these rights owners to initiate that process. And they need it to happen easily. It needs to be simple. You know what I'm saying? They agreed to this, and I also do want to note their statement about this. They say, Claude isn't designed to be used for copyright infringement. We have numerous processes in place designed to prevent such infringement. Our decision to enter this stipulation is consistent with those priorities. We continue to look forward to showing that. Consistent with existing copyright law, using potentially copyrighted material in the training of generative AI models is quintessential fair use. So what they're saying is yes, like we don't want to infringe. We agree infringing is bad and that our model shouldn't do it. However, in order to train our models, we have to use the copyrighted stuff. Like we have to feed our generative model your copyrighted works because like that's how you feed an AI model, you know what I'm saying? Like that's just how you do it. So it's interesting because, you know, they're being cooperative obviously, but there's this big crux of like, well, this is how AI works, so we're going to continue using these works to train our models, but we will comply with you if the result is infringement, essentially, is what I'm gathering from all of this. And I think that is interesting, and once again, I put it in here because it's indicative of what we're going to be talking about when it comes to these cases with AI. There might not all the time be like this guilty verdict or like compensatory damages owed. It's going to be a lot of figuring out the framework of the culture of how we utilize AI in these spaces and pretty much that, how we use AI and how we act around it and the systems that we use and how that eventually is going to translate into law. Because as of right now, we're still in the learning phases and we're once again creating the boundaries and the rules when it comes to this technology. So we're going to continue to see language like this as stories come out and people make agreements with each other. So moving forward, we're kind of closing out for today. We're going to be talking about the charts, and this is something that I'm going to start doing probably at like the top of the shows. But today we're putting it towards the end because we're talking about the charts for a specific reason. Now, I just want us to look really quickly at the top 10 on the Billboard Hot 100. And I want to make a point about it. So, hello. The point that I want to make about the top 10 on the top 100, and really just the top 100 in general, is that all of these songs are either currently going through or have gone through a viral moment on TikTok, okay? And that is something that we've talked about before and just how important TikTok has been to the music industry over the past 5 years. Something else that I want to talk about really quickly in here is this song, Lose Control. This is, falls into that category of had a moment on TikTok. This is a re-entry into the charts, meaning that it was not here last week, but it's back on the chart this week. And it has spent a total of 72 weeks on the charts, which is a big feat, larger number than any of the other songs on this chart. And I want to talk about it because this song is very heavily licensed. And that is, in my opinion, why we're seeing it back in the charts. I've heard this in retail stores, restaurants, things of that nature. I've seen it in commercials, and I've seen it in like traditional sync, thinking about like TV and stuff like that, movies. And so what that is going to do is it's going to continue this trend of people rediscovering the song, but it's also going to continuously have new people discovering the song who are going out actively seeking it, Shazamming it, things of that nature, and pushing it further up in the charts. So all of these songs, something else that I want to note is the fact that all of these songs, or not all of these songs, this is a very pop heavy chart. Over the past couple of years, we have seen hip hop, R&B, and rap be, dominating the charts. And we're seeing this come back. We're seeing a resurgence of the domination of pop. Why this is happening, I'm not sure. But what I will say is that as we move into our next story, being that TikTok is about to get banned, it's going to be a lot harder for independent musicians to have that rise to fame that we've seen possible with TikTok. So I want us to be very vigilant about the types of media and music that we're seeing pushed to us, considering that fact, and be very vigilant about seeking media out. Something that I've talked about before is like seeking out resources and doing the research to find like the people around you. I also want to talk about that briefly when it comes to music real quick. Be active in your discovery of new musicians. Don't just listen to the force-fed stuff that is given to you via social media, okay? That is how we really create a beautiful landscape when it comes to the music industry and the types of music that is coming out of it, is if we are actively listening. And to tie that a little bit back into another story that we talked about, the very first story that we talked about was Spotify and the ghost artists. One of the things that they talk about in that article is passive listening, and the fact that that is one of the things that allows for these ghost artists to gain so much traction, because this is like the study music, you know what I'm saying? Easy listening that you can have in the background of whatever you have going on, which has a place, but for that to be generating so much money and almost, what's the word I'm looking for? Hogging up the market, you could say, is a problem. And one of the ways that we, fight against that is by actively listening and actively seeking out new musicians that we really love and connect with, okay? So once again, the next story that we're talking about is the TikTok ban, okay? So confirming that it's going to cease operations in the U.S. by the 19th, unless the Supreme Court blocks this ban, you know what I'm saying? Or they make the decision to sell to a U.S. buyer, but I really don't think that's going to happen. If you don't know, the reason why the TikTok ban is happening is because the U.S. government essentially is making the claim that TikTok and its parent company ByteDance are harvesting Americans' data and using it, for China, for Chinese communism purposes, you know what I'm saying? And we don't want that. So that's why this is all happening. I brought up the charts and everything like that because, TikTok, as we disclosed, has been really instrumental in formulating the charts over these past couple years. And the industry has put all of its eggs in the TikTok basket. So now we are having to, I think it's funny because it's just like we did all of this work and all of this stressing for it to go away. But with that being said, we can repurpose the ideas and the content and the things that we've learned from TikTok onto other social media platforms. But it's going to be a sad day for users, definitely, when the time comes, myself included. And it's going to change the landscape of things. Once again, it's not going to be the same as it once was when it comes to breaking artists and trends and the charts. We're going to go back to seeing radio dictate a lot of things. And social media will as well. But we're going to be seeing, I believe, more traditional means of media being very, once again, like helping formulate the charts. So, yeah, craziness. It's definitely crazy stuff. I'm very excited to see what content is going to be coming out of conferences this year regarding this whole situation. So the final thing that we're going to talk about today, closing everything out, is definitely sad situation. We're going to talk a little bit about the LA fires. I'm not going to say much or like talk about specific instances, but what I am going to say is that our industry this is a big deal for the state of California, and it is also a big deal for the music industry at large. This is one of our meccas. And many homes, businesses, and livelihoods have been absolutely destroyed over this past week or so. So there is a link to a bunch of different just ways that you can donate and resources that you can spread for people who have been affected. I've seen multiple spreadsheets of GoFundMes and things like that, but this is a really good place to start if you're looking for ways to help. Something that I will say about this as my little tidbit is that usually when natural disasters happen, you see a lot of working class people are affected by it. And this is the same situation. Majority of people affected by these fires are working class, everyday people, not even in the music industry, But I think this is one of the first times that we have seen so publicly, like ultra rich people being affected by these natural disasters and losing everything that they have. And what I want to say about that is that there's no amount of wealth that can save you from a natural disaster, especially natural disasters that are caused by climate change. These are unprecedented things that are happening over these past couple of years when it comes to how the weather works. We'll say it like that. And, I'll just say that science is totally real, and we're seeing the effects of it on our communities across the world. You know what I'm saying? There's other fires across the world. There's other natural disasters that are going on across the world. But of course, this is directly affecting our industry. Where, like I said, businesses, artists, executives, livelihoods, are completely changed after this event. And like I said, no amount of status and no amount of wealth can protect you from this kind of shit. And that's why these billionaires are, trying to go to space, because they know that this is what they're doing to the planet for the rest of us to suffer from. You know what I'm saying? So I'm saying this to say, please be active politically. I know I don't really talk about that kind of stuff. I do every once in a while because it's a part of my personality and it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? But I know that's not the focal point of this channel. But these are very important things. Like, people are dying. People are dying. People are losing everything. And on top of that, it's just furthering the pain and trauma on our planet. You know what I'm saying? So please think about these things, and also take this time to, if you're in LA, number one, my heart goes out to you, and please be in your community and seek out any of the resources that are out there for you. One of them that I will specifically say, Music Cares. Go to Music Cares. If you have a 5-year track record in the music industry, they're giving out $1,500 plus I think it's like $500 in food. But that's one off the top of my head that I know that you can go to. But be in community. Take the resources that you can. And for the rest of the music industry and just people in general, learn who is in your community and take the time to get to know them and really care about them, because hard times come and they are coming. You know what I'm saying? So don't wait until shit hits the fan to like get to know who your fucking neighbor is. You know what I'm saying? Or have a community of people who you can help, or who, you know, can help you. You know what I'm saying? Build that community and those relationships now, 100%. So, like I said, there's a whole list of resources that I'm gonna have linked in the sources for today. But that's all I got for you folks. I will see you, if not next week, the following week. You know what I'm saying? And I'm really glad to be back on the horse. You know what I'm saying? So have a good rest of your week. And if you have any specific music industry questions or stories that you want me to cover next week, go ahead and give me a shout, either like through social media, my email, or my website, okay? Some quick little things that I will say before I go. We are starting back up on the radio show. We have moved over to Hot 407 Radio on iHeartRadio, which is super, super fun. If you would like to submit music, or, you know, want to schedule an interview, go ahead to darrenify.net to do that. And yeah, holla at your girl. Have a good rest of your week. Have a good rest of your week, you beautiful people. Goodbye.